Story 1. The Haunted Dorm. Alright, so there I was, just trying to get through college, right? I'm Zeiad, a science major, and freshman year, me and my buddies had this crazy experience in our dorm. I was looking for an off-campus apartment near school and put up a post on the college group. This guy named Michael hits me up, says he and his friend Mina found a place with a killer rent, like $60 a month each if we had 4 guys. I was like, no way, everything I'd seen was at least 100, and those places were dumps. So I meet up with Michael and Mina, turns out they're cousins. We check out the apartment and it's way better than I expected. 2 decent-sized bedrooms, each with 2 beds and a closet. It had been rented to students before. We're all in, sign the lease with the landlady, and grab the key. We were stoked for the whole college experience. We moved in a couple of days later. Michael and Mina were cool dudes. We hit it off right away. They took one room, and me and Ahmed, a buddy from back home, took the other. From night 1, this apartment had a seriously weird vibe. The whole building was practically empty, just 2 occupied apartments. Ours and another one upstairs with these newlyweds. First night, me and Ahmed crash out. A little while later, we wake up to the sound of someone showering and talking in some language we couldn't understand. I couldn't make out a single word, but I could hear the water running and this person rambling in this bizarre way. I nudged Ahmed like, "Dude, who's in the bathroom?" He didn't know either. We're whispering, "Go tell him to keep it down." "No, you go." "Nah, man, I ain't moving." "Me neither." We just kinda shrugged and went back to sleep. The next day, we totally forgot about it until we were all chilling in the living room, scrolling through our phones. Suddenly, bam! The toilet seat cover slams shut, loud as anything. We all jumped and stared at the bathroom. Michael's like, "What the heck was that?" Ahmed, trying to be funny, says, "Oh, that's just the creepy crawlies having a party in there. Don't mind them." We all burst out laughing. Then I remembered the weird talking from the night before. I go, "Speaking of which, who was showering and muttering last night?" They both swore it wasn't them. They said they just used the bathroom before bed and went straight to sleep. So we told them what we heard, and Mina looks totally freaked out. "You mean this place is haunted or something?" Michael, sensing the mood shift, tries to play it cool. "Come on, guys, you're being ridiculous. Maybe you heard the neighbors, and the toilet seat probably just fell. Happens all the time." Ahmed's like, "Yeah, maybe it was the neighbors if the dude upstairs is speaking Hindi. I'm telling you, this guy was talking some crazy gibberish, sounded Chinese or something." Then Michael goes, "So your theory is one of us is speaking in tongues, or we're all possessed by some foreign ghost?" We all laughed and made fun of it until around 11 that night. Then Mina pipes up, "I'm starving. Anyone down for some food?" I was hanging out with them, but Ahmed was in his room hitting the books. The guy's a total brain. From the beginning of the semester, he's studying non-stop. I said, "All right, what are we making?" They're like, "Not you. That macaroni you made yesterday was a disaster." So I'm like, "Fine, Mr. Chef, you make something." Michael says, "Let's do white rice, and I'll make some liver. We can do some garlic sauce, make it like a rice and liver thing I had once. It was awesome." So we get to it. He's doing the liver, I'm on rice duty. We go to dish it up. Mina opens the rice pot and just cracks up. The rice was basically a solid mass of mush. They're all busting my chops, saying my rice was worse than my macaroni. Ahmed comes out of his room, drawn by the laughter, sees the rice and goes, "Nice one, buddy. We can use that as dough to bake some bread to eat with the liver." I volunteered to go get bread. I head out and the stairwell is pitch black. I use my phone flashlight to see as I'm going down. After I pass one floor, I notice the door to the apartment below us is slightly open. This whole floor is supposed to be empty. This is the apartment right beneath ours. I shine my flashlight through the crack, and all of a sudden, something gets thrown right into my eye. My eye fills up with dirt, I'm on the ground, and it takes forever to get back on my feet. My eye is burning and watering like crazy. The weird thing is, as soon as it happened, the slightly open door was completely shut. I was freaking out. How could that be? If the door was closed, who threw dirt in my eye? And if it was open, how did it close without making a sound when I was right there? That's when I bolted downstairs thinking, oh man, this whole building is messed up, not just our apartment. I grabbed the bread, and on my way back up, the door that had been ajar was closed again. I get back to our place, we all eat, and I tell them what happened. They look at each other, and it starts to feel real. Michael asks, "Are you serious, or are you messing with us?" I swear I'm not kidding. We decided we needed to put a light on the stairs. How can a 5-story building have a completely dark stairwell? Even the newlyweds upstairs hadn't put a light in their part. Pretty strange. We agreed to get a light bulb and install it. We went to bed. The next morning, we go to class as usual. I got back first because Ahmed was buying books for both of us, and Michael and Mina went shopping for a suit for Michael's brother's wedding. I had a splitting headache, so I skipped out on that. As I'm walking up to the building, I see a guy coming down. I call out, "Hey, are you the groom upstairs?" He says, "Yeah, congrats." "Thanks, man. Same to you one day. Listen, how do you get up and down at night in the dark? Why haven't you put a light in the stairwell?" He tells me, "Man, I've put up 4 lights in 2 months. They all blew out. Seems like there's some kind of voltage issue. It spikes real high sometimes and just pops the bulbs. So high they literally explode." Weird, I thought. I told him me and my buddies were going to put up a light outside our apartment so we could see at night. He suggested, "Why don't you put it up in your part of the landing? Maybe the problem is with my wiring. If yours doesn't blow, that's great." After he left, I went upstairs, took a shower, and relaxed. I called Ahmed, and he said he got the books and met up with Michael and Mina, and they'd be back together. I mentioned the light bulb and decided to take a nap since they were out, so I could study a bit later when they were asleep. I drifted off, and just as I was falling asleep, I heard a scratching sound coming from inside the closet. At first, I thought someone was knocking on my door. I sat up and said, "Who is it? Come in." No one came in. I got up, opened the door, and there was no one there. I even opened the apartment door, still nothing. I went back to bed, and this time, my face was towards the closet. I saw an old woman emerge from it. She looked terrifying, her eyes completely white. Her mouth was wide open, and she was making this strange sound, the same gibberish I heard the first night in the bathroom. She started coming closer while I was lying there. I felt my whole body go numb and heavy. She stared right at me and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you here? Get out of here!" I tried with all my might to wake myself up, and finally I jolted awake, panting. She was gone, but the closet doors were open, and I was positive I'd seen them closed before I went to sleep. Looked inside the closet, nothing unusual. I closed the doors and went back to bed. I was sure something weird was going on as soon as I fell asleep, but I was just too tired to care. Plus, I'd taken some cold medicine that made me drowsy. My headache had been really bad, and I figured I was getting sick, so I took a pill and it knocked me out. Despite everything that had happened, I just passed out. I fell asleep again, and this time I dreamed about the apartment's bathroom. I walked in normally, and as soon as I closed the door, I saw this gruesome scene. The bathroom floor was covered in severed body parts. I saw rats gnawing on them, and one rat was dragging a piece of a human head. I started screaming and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Then the head on the floor started to turn on its own, as if it were crawling, and it looked right at me. This head started making expressions like it was alive, and it opened its mouth. I was screaming and my heart was pounding. Suddenly, this black goo started oozing from the head. Every time the goo touched a body part on the floor, it would start to move, and they all began to crawl towards me. I kept screaming, my voice muffled, until I woke up. By then, it was after sunset and my buddies still weren't back. I got up and turned on all the lights, totally freaked out from the nightmare. I didn't know what to do. I was breathing heavily and kept looking around. I called them and they finally picked up, saying they were on their way. I waited for another 10 minutes until they arrived, carrying some shopping bags with clothes. I was still shaken up by what had happened while they were out, but I didn't know whether to tell them or not. In the end, I decided to keep quiet for now, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this whole thing was far from over. Night had completely fallen. We turned on the light in front of our apartment, at least lighting up the stairwell on our floor. Then I went out onto the balcony and sat down. The building was on a side street, and across from us was a parking lot. My friends all came out onto the balcony too, munching on sandwiches. That night passed without any more incidents. They eventually went in and fell asleep, but since I'd already napped, I wasn't sleepy. I sat in the living room and studied for a while. As I was studying, I started hearing light footsteps going up the stairs. I figured it was the guy upstairs, but the footsteps kept going, like whoever it was wasn't reaching his floor. I was thinking to myself, what is this guy doing, climbing to the roof or something? When I heard a loud crash and the sound of glass breaking right outside our apartment door. I opened the door to find the light bulb shattered and the socket melted. I grabbed a broom and swept up the glass, went to throw it away, and as I was coming back to close the door, I caught a glimpse of the apartment door downstairs. It was ajar again. I stopped and looked at it through the crack in our door. This time I saw a white rabbit come out. I was so confused. I thought ghosts usually took the form of black cats or black dogs, not rabbits. And it wasn't just one rabbit, there were several of them coming down the stairs right in front of me. Nope, I had to go after them and see if these rabbits were real. I grabbed the key from behind the door, locked up, and went down. I saw rabbits on every floor. I went after them, saying, "Hey, come on, we'll have some rabbits too, don't be scared." I followed them down, and just as I was about to grab one, they all vanished. Not just one. All of them disappeared. I ran back upstairs, and as I got to our floor, the door to the apartment where the rabbits had come from was closed. I went into our apartment and sat down to study, but I couldn't focus at all. A little while later, I heard a knock in Michael and Mina's room. I heard Mina jump up, shouting, "By the cross! By the cross!" I was sitting outside and couldn't help but laugh, thinking, looks like whatever came out of my closet paid them a visit too. Then I heard Michael get up, arguing with Mina about scaring him and saying there was nothing there. But Mina kept jumping around, insisting he saw a small child with glowing eyes. I knocked on their door, and Michael, still annoyed, opened it. I went in, saying, "What's going on, guys?" Mina screaming and freaking me out. He said, "There was a kid in the room, and its eyes were glowing." I said, "Yeah, right. Where's this kid?" "Well, I saw a woman too when you guys were out. She came out of the closet and then disappeared." "Man, this apartment isn't just haunted, the whole building is." Michael goes, "Have you all lost it?" Then I tell them, "Listen to this. I just saw the apartment door on the 3rd floor open again, and rabbits were coming out of it. I chased after them and they disappeared right in front of me." As we were talking, we heard Ahmed calling out, "Hey, Zeiad, you, Zeiad." I went to him to see what was wrong, and Michael followed me, asking, "What? Did you see a rabbit too? What are you doing inside the closet, Zeiad?" We all looked at each other and laughed. I said, still laughing, "Just doing what everyone else is doing. Found the bathroom busy, so I figured I'd improvise." He threw a pillow at me, yelling, thinking I was playing a prank on him, totally convinced I'd been inside the closet to scare him. "Come on, man, I was actually in their room. Stop with the creepy stuff. I swear, next time I'll get up and punch you." All right, chill. If I ever do that to you again and you catch me hiding in the closet, don't let me go." Ahmed went back to sleep. I went back out with Michael and Mina. I looked at Michael and asked, "What's going on?" He just said, "I don't know anymore. I'm going to bed." Michael went inside and Mina came out and slept in the living room, scared to sleep in their room again. I laid a blanket next to him and slept there too, because I was afraid to sleep in the room alone. In the morning, I woke up and found Michael asleep on the couch on the balcony. As soon as I saw him, I woke Mina up and pointed. Mina started laughing and said, "Look at him, Mr. 7-Man Strong. He ended up out here anyway." He went to shake Michael awake, saying, "Hey, look, it's the kid with the glowing eyes." Michael jumped up from the couch and ran inside, while Mina and I were dying with laughter. Mina asked Michael why he'd slept outside. "The weather's hot, man. You saw the kid, right?" Michael nodded and then said, "Honestly, we should just get out of this apartment altogether." Mina jokingly suggested, "Why don't we just remove the closets that they keep coming out of?" We went down to the college and I told Ahmed everything that had happened. We all laughed, but we were all completely freaked out by the apartment. And seeing the light bulb explode was a whole other level of creepy. We kept asking our other out-of-towner friends if they knew of any apartments for rent. The problem was, the cheap ones had like 6 students living in them, and we didn't want that many people. The empty ones were either super expensive or way too far. We went back that day and decided to keep looking on the class group, and if we didn't find anything, we'd look for a real estate agent. That night, we went back to the apartment, all of us completely sure about what was in the place. We sat around, scared, while we tried to study. I got up to make some tea and asked if anyone wanted any. They all said yes. I went into the kitchen while I was texting my brother on WhatsApp, telling him about the apartment. I was laughing as I texted, and he said something that made me laugh even harder. I don't even remember what it was. I laughed out loud, and when I stopped laughing, I heard the sound of my own laughter again. Like when you record your voice and then play it back. I froze, then the sound came back again. I got totally freaked out and went to the kitchen door, saying, "Hey guys, can someone come stand with me?" Michael came with me, trying to escape studying. We stood there talking, and he was telling me about something that had happened to him. I laughed, and he laughed, and then it happened again. We heard the sound of both our laughs echoing, the exact same sound. That's when I started reading verses from the Quran, and Michael was reading something from the Bible at the same time. Or maybe what Michael said wasn't from the Bible, maybe it was like their prayers or something. I didn't ask him. Anyway, the other 2 guys came in when they heard us and just stood there looking at us strangely. Ahmed said, "What are you 2 doing? This ghost stuff isn't funny anymore." We couldn't make sense of it, so we knew it wasn't going to stop that night. When we went to sleep, it felt like we were walking into our own execution. Me and Ahmed went into our room and sat on the bed, staring at the closet, terrified. We left the light on and went to sleep. And again, between sleep and wakefulness, I saw a small child coming out from behind the closet. It looked like a normal kid, except its eyes were glowing. It was naked, with just a white cloth wrapped around its waist. I tried to get up or scream, but I couldn't move. This kid just stood there in front of me. Then it went up onto the wall and started crawling on it like a gecko, its stomach and hands and feet flat against the wall. Then it disappeared from the wall. I was still paralyzed. My tongue felt heavy. I tried to read some Quran or move, but nothing. Then I heard the same voice I'd heard the first day in the bathroom, the same unintelligible mumbling. I saw someone coming in through the bedroom door and standing in the middle of the room looking up at the ceiling. Then the kid that was crawling on the wall came back, and I saw the old woman by the window. I was thinking to myself, still paralyzed, "Oh no, this is bad. All of them are in the room." Then they all vanished in a flash. I woke up and my whole body was drenched in sweat and I was panting. I got up and went out of the room, and I was so scared that I didn't even want to sleep in the living room. I went out to the balcony and sat on the old wooden couch. It was one of those old-fashioned ones with a broken leg, so it was all lopsided. I sat there not knowing what to do. This situation was getting out of hand. Even if they weren't hurting us, the fear was too much. We couldn't sleep here or focus on our studies. I opened my phone and started scrolling, but I couldn't really concentrate. I was so tired and wanted to sleep because we had early classes that day, and I'd gone to bed late the night before. As I was sitting on the couch, I leaned my head back and just passed out. I woke up to someone shaking me. It was Mina. "What's up? Why are you sleeping out here?" he asked. "Scared, huh? Me too, man. Come on next to me. We need to talk to the landlady first thing in the morning, get our deposit back, and find another place, even if it's more expensive. We'll find another roommate. Whatever. This isn't working." I said, "You're right." We slept, and in the morning we found Michael and Ahmed asleep in the living room. We went downstairs and talked about it, then called the landlady. She said she was out of town and wouldn't be back until Tuesday. She'd come see the apartment then and give us our deposit. "Man, are we really going to stay until Tuesday?" Mina asked. "What choice do we have, dude?" "It's not like we're sleeping on the sidewalk," I said. "Well, the sidewalk is better. At least there are no ghosts there." We hung up, and when we got back that day, we put up posts asking about apartments. One landlord replied saying he had a place. We went to see it, and he was asking for $1,200, but he only came down $100 after a lot of convincing. We went straight back to our old apartment, packed up our things, and moved to the new place. The guy was really cool and let us pay the deposit a few days later when the old landlady returned. We got our deposit back from her and paid it at the new apartment. We moved in, and we were even wary of the street where the old building was. I don't know what happened to the newlyweds upstairs, but the good thing is that me, Ahmed, Mina, and Michael became really close friends. The whole year calls us the Crescent and Cross Gang. Even the professors call us that. And when one of us is absent, we're all absent, so any professor will ask, "Where's the National Unity Group?" We're really sad that this is our last year together in the dorm, but we've promised to visit each other often after we finish our studies, especially since they don't live too far from us, about an hour and a half away by public transport. Even during vacations, we go to each other's places. Thanks for listening. Story 2, Tales from the Graveyard. All right, so my name is Mohammed Jidi, and I work as a turbai, which means I bury people and clean up the cemeteries. My granddad, his name was Shihata. This story happened when I went to visit him. I was about 14 years old, and we used to go down to his place in the village during the holidays. My granddad, whenever there was a funeral, he'd go out to the cemetery. I never really thought about going with him, except for this one time. He told me about something that happened to him once, and it made me curious to go see what he actually did. So this one time, a guy came to him and told him his father had passed away. My granddad went to get the grave ready. I asked my grandma, "Set Ali," and she said he'd gone to bury someone. I wanted to see what he did, like I said, so I went after him to the cemetery. I started looking for him, but I couldn't find him. This cemetery was huge. I went in and wandered around between the graves. I was a pretty mischievous kid back then. I found this grave with roses and stuff planted on it. I liked the way the roses looked, so I picked them. I took them with me as I walked on. Then I found another grave with the dead person's name written on a marble plaque. It was on the grave and looked nice. I hit it with a rock and broke it. I mean, I wanted to pull it off, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Anyway, it broke, didn't come off, and the other part stayed put. When it made that cracking sound, I ran in case anyone came and yelled at me. I kept walking until I found my granddad inside a grave, digging up bones. At first, I didn't realize they were human bones. I thought that every time someone was buried, it was in a new grave. That's what a kid my age would think. Anyway, I saw him digging up the bones and putting them to the side against the wall of the grave, getting a spot ready for the new dead person. Then he said, "Hey, Mohammed, hand me that bucket." I asked, "What are you doing, Granddad?" He said, "Getting the place ready for the dead. Now give me the water to sprinkle on the grave, just a little bit to calm this dust." I handed him the water and he sprinkled it with the tips of his fingers. Then he left the grave open and came out. I asked, "Hey, aren't you going to close the grave?" He said, "Let it air out until the funeral comes." He went out, and I stayed sitting in front of the grave. He started talking to a friend of his who always came to hang out with him. His friend was asking him who had died. They stood talking outside, and I was sitting there, focused on the bones he'd put inside the grave. I thought I'd help my granddad out and go inside to take all those bones out. I still thought they were animal bones. I went in and started picking up the bones with my hands. Suddenly, I found the skull underneath them. That's when I realized they were human bones. I felt my mouth go dry, and I got dizzy from the shock. I threw the bones back in their place and put the skull on top. It rolled a bit, and I put my foot down, wanting to run. I stepped on the skull, and it went crack. It didn't break, but it was like a piece of it broke off. I kicked it with my foot, trying to get it back next to the other bones. Then I did that and ran outside. Ever since that shock, I felt really uneasy. My scalp felt hot and my hair was standing on end. I stood with my granddad until the funeral came and they buried the dead person. There were some benches outside the cemetery, so I went and sat on one of them until everyone left. It was after the afternoon prayer. They prayed the afternoon prayer for the dead person. I sat there and saw a guy standing by the grave, looked like his son. He sat down next to the grave and started reading from the Quran. My granddad went out with his friend, who he was standing with. I was watching and focused on the young man who was crying in front of his father's grave. After it got a little darker, I went back home and sat on the roof. I saw that this young man was still sitting in the same spot. I was surprised he hadn't left yet. I went and told my granddad there was someone sitting in front of the grave. He said he'd go tell him to leave because the sunset prayer had been called and it was wrong to stay out at night like that because he could get possessed. My granddad went out and took a long time and didn't come back. I thought, I'll go see why he's taking so long. I told my mom I was going to see Granddad and started walking. I knew the location of that grave. I thought, I'll go and I'll definitely find him talking to that young man. I walked into the path where the grave was and kept walking, passed by the grave with the broken marble plaque. As I was walking, I heard a knock on the door of a grave. It was just a little bit of light left from the sunset. I turned around and didn't see anyone behind me. I said, scared, "Maybe it's a cat or a rat or something else." I kept walking and calling for my granddad until I got to the grave. But I didn't find the young man or my granddad. I thought, so he must have told him to leave and they went somewhere else. I turned back to leave, and by that time it was completely dark. I found myself surrounded by the vast and large cemetery. It got dark and I got scared. I started running as fast as I could until I got back to the same grave. Then I saw a rock thrown at me. I don't know where that rock came from. It was thrown hard, not like it fell from something. No, it was thrown with force. I turned around to look and didn't see anything. I tried to run, but I tripped and fell. What did I trip on? I don't know, because the ground in front of me was wide and there was nothing there. But when I ran, my legs hit something and I fell. As soon as I fell and looked up, I saw a black cloak with a shawl standing right in front of me. There should have been someone inside it, but I couldn't see anyone or anything other than the cloak. That's when I screamed and got up and ran without looking back at all. But the whole time I was running, I kept getting hit hard by rocks. I kept going until I reached the benches and heard a scary voice say, "Get out of here, you son of a dog." I flew outside and went home. When I got back, my granddad hadn't returned yet, but I was really scared. I waited until my granddad came and asked, "Where were you, Granddad?" He said, "I went to comfort the man we buried. He was a distant relative of your grandma." I told my granddad what happened, and he said, "What did you do in that grave?" I said, "I didn't do anything." He said, "Liar. Since they did that to you, you must have done something wrong." I said, "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to take off the marble plaque, and it broke." He said, "You deserved it. Why did you want to take it off in the first place? What are you made of, ghost water? They threw rocks at you, and that's the least of it." I asked, "And who are these who threw rocks at me? The owners of the place from the Jinn? Do you think this place is just ours? You saw them." I saw them and even talked to them normally. He said, "I used to live in this cemetery yard when your father was your age, before it was expanded. Let me tell you, I used to bury bodies during the day and hear their pleas at night, calling my name from the grave where they were buried, and imagine seeing shadows or a black cloak standing or a black bird near the grave. And one time I buried a guy who was in an accident. He came from the hospital all wrapped up in his shroud because he was hit by a truck and was all torn up, so they couldn't wash him. They just wrapped him in his shroud like that. When I found out about this, I loosened the knot of the shroud, but I didn't open it from his face. I loosened it a bit, but didn't open it. While I was sitting in front of the yard, I heard someone calling my name, saying, "Shihata, come here, Shihata." "Who are you calling?" I said, "Come here." He said, I got up and walked towards the voice. I saw a black shadow standing by the grave where I'd buried the body of this man. I ran away in fear, went back inside, closed the door, and sought refuge in God from Satan the accursed. Then I went to sleep. When I slept, I saw that grave and saw the dead man, even though I didn't know what he looked like. I saw his face all messed up and covered in blood, one eye out of its socket and the other sunken in. He looked terrifying. He was with me in his grave inside. I started screaming and he said, "Why didn't you give me my right?" "What right do you want?" "You left me dirty and covered up." "Why?" "I want water." "Okay, I'll get it for you," my granddad continued. Then he went back to sleep and covered himself with the shroud, and I saw the grave open up. I ran out, and then I woke up to the dawn prayer. I got up, prayed, and waited until sunrise. As soon as it was light, I took water and sprinkled it around the grave, and I planted a few basil seedlings in front of the grave. I thought, okay, that's it. I went back to sleep and everything was fine. That night when I went to bed, I heard a voice coming from the grave, calling my name. I was still awake, and the kids and their mother were awake too. "Shihata, Shihata," I went to my wife and asked her, Did you "Did you hear someone calling me?" She was quiet for a moment to listen to the sound, and then she said, "No one's calling you," even though I swear I could still hear someone calling me. I left them and went outside, knowing the voice was coming from that grave. I took a flashlight with me and went out, thinking, let me see what's the story with this dead guy. Is he alive or dead, or what's calling me? I walked, reciting the Quran on my way, and reached the grave. I said, "What's your story, man? What are you calling me for? Here I am." That's when I saw a black bird, like a crow, but much bigger. It landed in front of me on the grave. I looked at it fearfully because I'd never seen a crow that big. I turned to leave, but my legs felt really numb, and I heard a sound behind me. The bird was flapping its wings really hard, and the sound was saying, "Wash the dead, Shihata, wash him." But how could I wash him when he was all torn up? Wash the dead, Shihata. Okay. I went back to sleep, and again, I found myself with this dead man. He said the same thing he'd said the night before. I woke up in the morning not knowing what to do. What do I have to do with a dead man who hasn't been washed? My job is just to bury him. I called the number that called me and told me about the dead man. It was supposed to be his older brother. I called him and asked him to come over urgently and bring the key to the grave. He came an hour later. "What's wrong, Shehata? What happened? You scared me. Why do we need to open my brother's grave? What happened?" "Your brother is not at peace because he wasn't washed." "Not washed? How is that possible? They should have washed him at the hospital." "No, they didn't wash him because of the state of his body." "So what's the solution? What are we going to do?" "Well, I'll do my best in this matter. Just bring me the key to the grave." I took the key from him, opened the grave, and got some bricks and lined them up next to the grave, then put some wooden planks on top of them. Me and his brother lifted him up and put him on the wood. I filled a bucket of water and opened a small part of the shroud. I poured the water on it. A lot of blood mixed with the water and kept coming out. I kept pouring and pouring until clear water came out. I mean, he wasn't bleeding or anything, it was just the blood from the accident. Then all the water drained onto the wooden planks. Luckily, it was summer at the time and the sun was hot. It only took half an hour for the shroud to dry, but his brother went and got another shroud and wrapped it over the old one. Then I went inside and cleaned up the place, removing the soil that had blood on it. I put him back and straightened him towards the Qibla. I poured the musk that his brother had brought with the new shroud onto his shroud. His brother loved me a lot from that day on. After I washed him that night as best as I could, I had a dream. I saw green plants growing around his grave and a young man standing there watering them. When I got closer to him, I smelled the scent of musk. I was surprised by the plants on the grave, so I said to him, "Who are you, son?" He just said, "Thank you, Uncle Shahata. May God bless you." And that was the end of the story of this dead man. His grave became one of the calmest graves with a nice smell. I mean, what does nice smell mean? Well, every grave has its own smell. There are some graves where when you stand in front of them, you feel scared or uneasy. But the graves that smell nice, you find the area around them comfortable, the atmosphere is good, and there's no bad smell. Also, there are no insects around, so you'd like to sit next to them and feel a sense of peace, not like a scary grave. After my granddad told me the story of this young man, I felt that his stories about the dead and what he saw in the cemeteries were very entertaining. I said I wanted him to tell me a story every night. That night, when I went to sleep, it was a tough night for me, especially since I was still a young kid. I slept and dreamed I was standing on a pile of dirt with the bones of the man who was in the grave, and I also had the piece of marble that I broke from the other grave. I saw myself smashing the skull of the dead man with the marble, and then I threw the skull and the marble away and went down. As I turned around, I saw that the dead person was me. It was my own face. I screamed and was terrified, and I woke up startled from the bed. My grandma was sleeping next to me at the time, and she said, "What's wrong, Mohammed? You had a bad dream?" "Yes, a very bad dream." "Okay, try to go back to sleep and don't be scared. Read some Quran and go to sleep." So I went back to sleep, and this time I dreamed I was buried inside a grave next to the bones I was going to take out. Honestly, I didn't know they were dead people's bones. I thought they were animal bones. I tried to get up from the bed or scream, but I couldn't, even though I could see my grandma sleeping next to me and I was kicking her to wake her up. But nothing. I was still tied up and couldn't breathe. I also saw the black cloak that usually floats in the air, or someone wearing it but not visible. I saw it by the window of the room. It took a long time for my body to untangle. I got up and sat on the bed, and I was scared to go back to sleep again. So I went out to the living room, had a drink, and found my granddad coming out of the bathroom. He asked me, "Why haven't you gone back to sleep yet?" I said, "I'm scared to sleep. I keep having nightmares." "Okay, read some Quran and go to sleep. Or tell you what, come on and sleep next to me." So I went and slept next to my granddad. As I was falling asleep, I saw the same cloak, someone wearing it but not visible, standing next to me and choking me. I woke up startled and said, "Granddad, Granddad, get up, Granddad, the ghost with the cloak." He said, "Go to sleep, boy, no ghosts with cloaks or ghosts with shorts." But by God, it was here, choking me. My granddad got up and got some water from his cupboard. He started sprinkling it in the corners of the room, saying the name of God and reciting the call to prayer. Then he said to me, "Go to sleep now. No ghosts will come in here." I went to sleep still scared, but nothing else happened to me. In the morning, I found my granddad calling me. I went to him and he said, "Is the ghost with the cloak the one you saw by the grave with the broken plaque?" "Yes, and it cursed me and threw stones at me." "Okay, come on, let's go see what it wants." "Go see who?" "The ghost, you clever boy, the one whose plaque you broke. And how are we going to fix it?" But then I saw him holding a cup with some powder in it. He said, "Here's some plaster and cement. We'll go and glue the broken piece back on." "You don't have it with you?" "No, it was lying there." "Okay, you clever boy, follow me. Come on, let's go and see it." Me and my granddad went to the cemetery. I was really scared as I went in, even though it was still morning. I went and found the 2 pieces of broken marble. My granddad poured some water on the cement he had, and with a stick, he started putting it on the broken pieces and putting them back together until it was fixed. It didn't look like it did before, but it was almost all in one piece again. My granddad sprinkled some water around the grave and said, "Okay, Uncle Cloak, we fixed it. Leave Mohammed alone now. He's just a kid and was playing." He took me by the hand and we walked away. As we were walking, I said to him, "Honestly, Granddad, I also pulled off the plants from the other grave over there. I don't know if Uncle Cloak is upset about the plaque or the plants." He said, "May God cut you off, you little devil. You went around all the graves and pulled off the plants from where?" I pointed to the grave I pulled the plants from. He went over there saying, "So what did you gain by pulling off these plants? These people's kids come all the way here and specifically water these plants." I said, "Sorry, Granddad, I was playing and I liked their smell and look, so I just pulled them off." He said, "Okay, go tell your grandma to get a mint seedling and a basil seedling." I didn't know what a seedling was, but I went and my grandma gave me a bag. I went back to my granddad and found him with a small hoe, making a small hole and sprinkling water on it. He planted the mint and basil in it. Then we looked at the grave where he was digging and said, "Did you mess with this one too? What happened to this one?" I said, "It wasn't my intention to mess with it." He said, "Then what was it, you clever boy? Tell me what you did there." I said, "I went in when you left the grave to air out. I wanted to take out the bones that were inside and throw them away to clean the grave like you do." He said, "Oh my God, you wanted to throw the dead person outside the grave? Speak up. Did you throw any of the bones outside?" I said, "No." When I took out the bones and found the skull underneath, I knew it was a human, not animal bones. So I got scared and just threw it back. But as I was leaving, I stepped on the skull and it went crack under my foot. So I kicked it with my foot next to the wall and ran out. He said, "You kicked it. You deserved it. Let them kill you. You are a real son of a dog. Go on. Get out of here and run home. Don't you dare come back here again." I went back home, but I still felt uneasy. I was scared and felt a sense of dread all the time. Every now and then I would see a shadow pass by, but I couldn't be sure if I really saw it or if it disappeared again. I would be confused, wondering if I had actually seen it or not. My granddad came back around noon, and he was furious with me when he found out what I had done. I spent the whole day playing with my bike. There was an old woman selling things by the road outside. I took some money from my dad and went to buy something. I was riding my bike fast, and as soon as I got near the road, I saw a shadow, like a bull running towards me. Seriously, exactly like a big black bull. I got so scared that I fell off my bike. When I got up, there was no trace of it. I took the thing from the old woman and went back home looking around, saying, "Oh God, was that a bull or a buffalo that escaped or what?" The problem is, it was still daylight at the time, the sun was shining, and it was after the afternoon prayer. I got back to my granddad's place on my bike and stayed inside, afraid to go out again. I stayed with them. When night came, someone came to visit my granddad, one of my grandma's siblings, and he had his son's kids with him. We all went outside to play soccer, and the lights in front of the house were on. Anyway, while I was running after the soccer ball, I went to get it from near my grandma's chicken coop, and I found a black horse running towards me incredibly fast. I fell to the ground on my back. At that moment, I felt a very strong heat pass over me. I heard everyone coming towards me because I screamed as I fell. They helped me up and asked what happened. I told them, "Did any of you see the horse that came out of the coop?" "What horse? The coop has chickens, for God's sake." "No, a horse came out of the coop, a black horse." "Are you crazy or what?" "You went over there and fell down. Nothing else happened." I stopped playing and went inside to sit with them. One of the kids I was playing with came in and said, "Hey kid, come on out, nothing's out there." My granddad noticed I was scared, so he asked the boy what happened. He told him that I said a horse came out of the chicken coop. Everyone started laughing at me, but my granddad was the one who understood what was going on. He told everyone about what I had done earlier to teach me a lesson. After that, he kept talking to them about the sanctity of the cemeteries and what we shouldn't do there and so on. But my parents were very worried about me because what was happening to me was concerning. I saw the worry in their eyes, but no one said anything at the time except that my dad yelled at me for what I had done. And the night passed like that, and that night was darker than the previous ones. Everyone went to sleep and I was sleeping in the middle, next to my mom and grandma. As soon as I fell asleep, I dreamed I was running in the middle of the graves and someone was chasing me with a knife. I was running as fast as I could, and he was right behind me with the knife, just about a yard away. I kept screaming with a muffled voice and then fell down. At that moment, something tied me up in the ground of the cemetery, and someone was holding a hoe and throwing dirt on me. I woke up coughing and feeling very choked up, and I was crying. All I could say was, "Mom, he's burying me in the ground. He's burying me in the ground and hitting me with a knife. Who is this, son? It's a ghost." My mom and grandma kept trying to calm me down. Then my granddad came when he heard me and said, "Come on, Mohammed, come and sleep next to me. I'll sprinkle the water like yesterday and they won't come near you again. Come on." I went with my granddad to the other room. He got the same bottle and kept sprinkling water and reciting the call to prayer. The problem was the weather was hot and he had the window and the door open. That door opened onto my small plot of agricultural land that had a mulberry tree and some plants. I slept next to him, and as I was turning around, I heard someone calling from outside, from near the land. Someone was calling my granddad. I looked and saw a man wearing something like a white uniform, and his legs were muddy from below, just like I used to see my granddad in the same shape when he was watering his land. This man was standing there saying, "Hey, Haj Shihata." I got up and said, "Yes, who is it?" My granddad woke up and grabbed me, saying, "Where are you going, boy? Who are you talking to?" "The man who's calling you from outside." "What man? Wearing a white shirt and shorts?" My granddad looked and came back, then asked me, "Who is this, granddad?" "That's the ghost with the shorts. That's different from the one with the underpants and the one with the cloak." "Okay, go to sleep now because every time he calls, he doesn't take them off." My granddad closed the door and the window, and we went to sleep. Every now and then, I would hear a knock on the door or the window. The next day, when we woke up and were having breakfast, my granddad told my dad, "Take your son to Sheikh Zeiad to get him exorcised. This boy has been touched by the cemetery he entered and the grave whose plaque he broke. Go, because they will harm him." "Where is Sheikh Zeiad now, Dad?" "He's sitting with his son at the beginning of the village. Take your nephew so he can take him." We actually went that day to Sheikh Zeiad, who kept reading over me, and I got a headache and my eyes kept tearing up until my stomach really hurt and I got dizzy and started throwing up a lot. After that, the sheikh said that the throwing up was good and that, God willing, it was over. He exorcised me, and after I returned, he told me to read Surah Al-Baqarah over 3 days. Every night, my granddad would sit and read with me so that I would agree to read and not get bored until we finished the surah, just him and me, after exactly 3 days. Then my granddad gave me a bottle of water, like the ones they use for exorcism, and told me to sprinkle some in the corners of the rooms where I would sleep every night. We went back home. I traveled, and I got better, thank God. But I never went near cemeteries again, and if I was forced to walk behind a funeral, I was afraid to step on anything on the ground. I walked very cautiously. And by the way, my granddad also told me many scary stories that happened to him. I will tell you about them later, God willing, during the holiday, because my exams are approaching now. Your prayers are needed. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed our journey today in the world of real horror stories. In the end, I thank everyone who stayed with us in the video until this point. And I thank all the people who interact with the videos and always support the channel. And I certainly thank the heroes of the stories in our episode today and the writer and editor, the brilliant Shrouk Ahmed in the world of the paranormal. I remind you that anyone who has stories and wants to share them with us can send them to us through the account links in the first comment. Please, before you close the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell and like and share. And also don't forget to write your opinion about today's stories. My dear listeners, today's stories have ended, but our stories never end, and as long as we are together, we will continue, God willing. I was with you, Sama Abdel Hamid, and wait for me in a new video, and peace be upon you.